Hello again, lovely people. This week we have a slightly different take on a video I've already done. It's a secondhand book haul, obviously.
Sophie Vlogs.
There might be a couple more secondhand book hauls just in the vague future because I've sort of made like a little resolution that I'm no longer going to buy myself books from like full price bookstores unless they're like some of my favorite independent bookstores. Like, oh my god, I'm already like reasoning my way out of it. My ratio of books bought to books read is very high in this favor, a little bit low on this side. So I've sort of instigated like a little tiny rule where I'm not allowed to go in normal bookshops anymore because I'll spend too much money. So instead I'm trying to just go into secondhand bookshops because even if I come away with like 3 books, it's still like working out at around the same price as one full-priced book. Let's see how long I stick to this. I just need to stop going in bookshops in general, but I keep doing it. So we keep ending up here. Validate me in my purchases, please. But this week's secondhand book haul, I forgot the word for a minute there. This week's one is focusing specifically on slightly older editions of books, which essentially, I keep looking down here because they're all down here, essentially are just a little bit older and I think they're just kind of beautiful and I'm just really excited to have found them. First up we have this adorable little book which is The Life and Death of Jason by William Morris. If you can see, here on the cover it's got a lovely embossed little Argo, and along the side it's really beautiful. I found this book in a tiny little bookshop in Cornwall in Loo, and I love William Morris so much. I think he was such an incredible person with such incredible creativity. Like, it's very rare, I think, that you find someone who is so creative in such a wide range of ways. Like, he didn't just do the wallpaper prints that everyone knows. He made the chairs. He taught himself he learned how to do the lettering and made his own fonts. They made their own printing press. Like, the whole arts and crafts movement in itself I find really interesting. I adore the Pre-Raphaelites, but I just find William Morris such an interesting figure. He wrote, like, he just wanted to see if he could write poetry, and he did, and it was great. He just did so much in one life, and he just amazes me, to be quite honest with you. So I'm working my way through reading some of his stuff, and this just seemed like too cute an opportunity to give up, really. So I got it. You know me, I love my Greek mythology. I've read a lot of Iliadic inspired things, so I figure branch out into other aspects, Sophie, don't become a broken record. So essentially this is just utterly adorable and I'm super happy to have found it. It is only when I come to do this that I become aware of the words which I don't know how to say. Idols of the king? Idols of the king? Read it. I don't know. Idols? I want to say it's idols, because it's like idyllic. But if I'm saying that wrong, I'm very sorry. It's by Tennyson. This essentially is Tennyson's retelling of the King Arthur myth/story through poems, highly influenced by the Morte d'Arthur as well as the Mabinogion. I never know, I can never say it off the fly. Mabinogion, that's the one, which I also own, haven't read yet. Have read Morte d'Arthur, really enjoyed it, did some coursework on it. I do actually already own this, technically. I own a beautiful, it's about this size, it's a beautiful edition of this, and it's got loads of illustrations by Gustave Doré, and it may be the most beautiful book I own, it's just stunning. But the ordering is different. The ordering in the big edition that I have, it sort of splits it, because it's interspersed with these big illustrations as well, it sort of splits the poems up a bit into like scenes and stuff, so it's a little bit less flowing to read, so I picked this up for literally 20p in a secondhand bookshop, just because then I can see them all together and I can just sort of like read it as a whole rather than in these little snippets. So that's great. I love Arthuriana. Any Arthuriana suggestions you have for me, whether that's retellings or older tellings, I would really welcome them. Following on from that, we have a book which, I will not lie to you, I bought purely for aesthetic reasons initially. That is Ivanhoe, A Romance by Walter Scott. I think this is a beautiful book. Look, I'm moving closer, I don't know if this helps. Obviously just beautiful flowers and the gold along the edges, and I just thought it was just beautiful. And it was awarded by the Men's Sunday Guild in Beeston to A. Lowe for regular attendance in June 1899. And A. Lowe liked it so much he also stamped his little name into it. So, and it also, like, lovely illustrations, again, heavy reason why I got it, because illustrations, I like pretty illustrations, to be honest with you. But also, I've never read any Walter Scott, I don't think. Not consciously, at least. Maybe that makes it sound like I'm, like, reading him in my sleep or something. I don't think I've read any. This has Robin Hood is, like, quite a main character in this, and I think this was one of the texts that made that sort of jovial Robin Hood and his merry men become part of, like, our canon, I think. As well as that, I know that it's sort of about a Saxon. The main character is like a Saxon, and he's sort of split with his family because he's supporting Richard the Lionheart, who is a Norman, and that's about all I know. I don't really know anything more than that, but, like, I'm a real sucker for an old, pretty book. I just can't bear to walk away from them, especially because this was, like, a couple of pounds. Yeah, this was $3.99 from Oxfam, and I just thought to myself, Sophie, how, if you leave this behind, you'll regret it. And who knows, maybe Walter Scott will become, like, a new favourite author, and it will all be down to just how damn pretty this is. Another book that I bought for slightly aesthetic reasons is this, which is gorgeous, which is the collected poems of, Thomas. I was about to call him Robert. What am I on about? Collected poems of Thomas Hood. Number one, just, it's beautiful. Look at it. It's so beautiful. I love this. It's gorgeous. Even the spine is gorgeous. I think it's absolutely lovely. This edition is from roughly like the 1870s. There's like a little thing in the front that tells me these things. Which, again, lovely. I'm attempting to, like, increase my collection of, like, old books just because they're gorgeous, really. Thomas Hood is a poet. The reason I actually bought this is because it is edited with an introduction by W.M. Rossetti, who was one of the founding members of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, obviously brother to Dante, Gabriel Rossetti, and he's done, like, a sort of lengthy sort of introduction-y thing to this because he really rated Hood as a poet. I think he thought he was one of, like, the best poets of our generation, of his generation, not my generation. He's dead. I'm not. But if there's one thing we should know about me is that, like, my life is just heavily influenced by the Pre-Raphaelites. Like, I literally, hang on the chair next to me, I literally have my Rossetti Persephone painting, which I just need to, like, hang in my room. Like, I have a small, tiny Raphaelite obsession, mainly due to this, to be honest, that, like, my style icon. So, yeah, so that's kind of why I got it. I got it for the introduction, but I'm also looking forward to reading the actual poetry. I've never heard of Thomas Hood before, if I'm honest, but I might, who knows, maybe I've found a new favourite. We'll see. Following on from that, we have another poetry collection, which is the works of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I know, obviously, How Do I Love Thee? Let Me Count the Ways I Love Thee to the depth and breadth of each day's most quiet need. That's probably mangling some of them together. My point is, I know that poem vaguely. I really like that poem. I thought it was lovely. But I know she's done so much more, as this book will attest. So, again, spotted it in a charity shop. It has this really gorgeous spine, which you can see there's a little circle that has her name, and then it's sort of like all this little gold gildedness. Oh, maybe you can't see, I don't know when it focuses. I don't have a little viewer thing I can look at. But, so yeah, again, this is much plainer, but still like a really lovely addition. So I decided to pick it up, get to know her better. I'm trying to explore the poetry of people who, you know, that you peripherally know, like you know all of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, but you've only ever read like the one famous poem. I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to read more. It also has like a little memoir in it as well, which I think should be quite interesting. It's like her reflecting on her life, and I can find out more about her as a person. So that should be really interesting. The final book I'm going to talk about is another poetry one. This is Sonnets to Orpheus by Rina Rilke, which I've mentioned his Letters to a Young Poet before and The Coronet, because I've read both of those. I really, really love them. Letters to a Young Poet I think is one of his most famous ones, but obviously that's letters. The Coronet I really enjoyed reading aloud to myself because it was really beautiful poetry. So, I got more, to be honest. This I'm super duper excited about because obviously Rina Rilke is German. So this has, you have the sonnet in German and in English. I should clarify, although I technically have a GCSE in German, I don't speak German, but I do find languages really, really interesting. So this way I get to like satisfy the language nerd in me, so I can read it in the German and hear how it was supposed to sound, but I can also actually understand what it's saying. So it's like the best of both worlds. And worlds. And maybe I can like pick up little pieces of German as I go along, like get to know it and stuff. But yes, super duper love dual translations because it's just wonderful to like be able to. I have it with my Pablo Neruda poetry book as well. They have it in Portuguese and then they have it in English, and you can be like, oh, that's how it's supposed to be said. That's it for this little tiny haul. These were just some really lovely editions of books that I have squirreled out in little tiny charity shops. I am just having a really lovely time exploring secondhand bookshops. I found a couple of really lovely ones near me. I've also found a couple of ones whilst travelling to other places. And there's just something about secondhand bookshops and just like hunting out these little finds. Like the Tennyson was in this little secondhand bookshop that goes on for rooms, and it's all like amid like secondhand like china and like full of, it's like a little tiny junk shop, but they just had like this little tiny gem in it for 20p. And just like that, I love that process of discovering. I'm not just like going, I mean, I will go into a bookshop with a purpose to buy a book, but I really love when you go in with no purpose and you just see what you find. I find that really fun. So yes, as per usual, I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these if you've read them. If you have any recommendations based off of them, always please give them to me. And I just hope everything is fantastic with you and that you're all good, really.